First, you want to go to tasktest.com. So up in your window of your new page, tasktest.com. tasktest.com. And it will look like this. Then you want to go in this green line here. You can see my mouse. You want to go over here to Test Takers. Click on Test Takers. And then you get this survey that you don't want, so get out of that. And hopefully get out of that. So sometimes you have to do all these things when you're having to things, but you want to go under here to Test Takers. If you let it go down, you come over here to Preparing for the Task Test and go back here to Test Takers. Preparing for the Task Test. You want to go to the Online Tools Training right there. But if you will note, there's also sample items and practice items. These are actually the same. One of them has the Spanish version, the other one does not. But there are answer keys. I recommend you do those as well. But for right now, we're going to go to the Online Tools. And you notice on Online Tools, if you read down, it says, click here for Online Tools. So look down here at the bottom, click here for Online Tools. Then you want to do, there's the readiness or this task, and we want to do the task Online Tools. In fact, I think they might be the same, and we're going to do it in English unless you're taking this test in Spanish. If you happen to have audio, you can practice it with the audio. I'm not sure if it will work for you, but it might. You have to have a certain audio on your computer. Otherwise, we're going to practice with the regular math. You will notice there was also all the other subjects were there as well. So where it says username, we're going to type in math, OTT. Notice it tells you to do that right there, math OTT. Your username, it tells you, our password is test1234, and it's always the same. Okay. And you always want to tell it never to save passwords on your computer unless it's your personal computer. You can click continue. This is going to be what your test will look like when you take it. You will check to make sure it's your name, and they'll have you check all the information, and they'll tell you to raise your hand if it's not who you are. You will click on the subject you're doing at that moment, and you will always follow whatever directions you're given. They tell you here that for our tools, just to the format, what it'll look like. You have questions if you have a help button. There's next and back keys. There's options. If you click on the options, you will see you can change your colors to different text colors. So this can be helpful for people who need a little different color. You also have options of contrasting colors, which is other blanks, and you have an option of reversing the contrast. So you can, if you enable it, everything goes black and white. If you unenable it, it goes back. We're going to leave it to white for right now. I'm just going to exit out of this. But those are options that you have. And this is exit. If you hit exit, you are leaving the test. Do not do that. Go to next. You have a pointer tool, which is what this one is. This is your pointer tool. And you have a flag button, and you can flag it when you need to go back, and you want to make sure you can go back to that question. Flag a question that you're not sure of, but go ahead and put a best guess answer down and flag it, because if you run out of time, at least it's been answered. And these are some helpful hints. For this, there's no time limit to finish the online tools training. But on the task test, there will be a timer that tells you when you're ready to be complete. Only one question at a time will appear on the screen. To see your progress on the test, click on the Review End Test button, and you can look to see how many questions are left, what questions you haven't answered, what questions you need to go back to. There are tools such as a highlighter, which we're going to really use a lot today, a sticky note, a magnifier, a line guide, and a calculator, and there's also your tool sheet will be there. And they ask you if you can see these, because sometimes there's something wrong with your monitor if it's not set up correctly, and we're going to hit begin test. So question number 1, and if you'll notice, we go up here to this little question thing. There are 9 questions that we are going to be answering today. Here are your tools. You have a pointer key. That's what this one is. Whenever you want this back, this should be lit. You have a cross out button, which is great for if you go, it's not that one, it's not that one, whatever that is. And you can turn them off by re-clicking on them. Go back to your pointer tool. You have a highlight button. This is where you want to highlight, especially questions. So you're going to click Use Highlighter, and you're going to highlight the key that you want. Then you have to go back to the pointer tool, and it will stay lit. Even when you change pages and you come back, it will stay. If you change your mind, you can hit it and you can turn off the or you can clear it all and it'll take away whatever you've highlighted. You do not have to clear in between. You can leave it on. This is really good for reading. Highlight the material that is answering your question on A, B questions, and then when you get to B, it will be there. You have a sticky note, which is good if you need to take notes while you're typing, or if you want to take it, you can just take a new sticky note and stick it someplace, and it will stick it. And then once you stick it, you can move it off the screen and you can take notes in it, and that is a sticky note. You can close that. You have your magnifying tool. You can grow up your stuff, make it really big. Then you have to use your scroll bars on the bottom to make sure you get everywhere you need to go. You have to scroll. But that's good if you have a low vision and you need to bring your words up pretty big. You can turn it off. Then there is the line guide. If you have problems keeping track of reading, this is really good. You can click your line guide on and you can read, and it helps you keep your place as you read, and you just drag it down with your mouse. You have a calculator. I recommend using the handheld one, but if in a pinch, this one is here. It does not, however, have the fraction key. But remember that a fraction is just a division. Take the first, 4/5, take 4 and divide it by 5, and you will get that it is 0.8. And then you have your reference sheet, which is there for you, and you will also be given paper copies of this, but it's there if you need it. So this one, they give you some practice hints. I don't think all of these practice hints are as helpful, so I'm going to probably use more of them than what they show you. It says press the cross-off button to turn on the cross-off tool. Use the cross-off tool to cross off incorrect choices. Press the pointer button when you are ready to answer the question. So some of the values for the linear functions f of x and g of x are given in the table. Remember that f of x and g of x mean y. So this is 2 different XY charts. And when you want to look at their values, you look at, it says both functions have the same, and we should always look at, there's also another one down here under options. You can mask. I wouldn't necessarily recommend this, but you can. So if we want to mask something, we could say, I just want you to look at the answers right now. I'm going to scoot this off to the side. I just really want you to look at the answers. It tells us that both functions have the same starting value. Both functions have the same rate of change. Both functions, function g of x has a greater starting value than functions f of x, and function g of x has a greater rate of change than function f of x. So those are the things we have to look at. So now I'm going to hide the mask. I can look at the whole question now. You don't have to use the mask, but if you find yourself not being able to look at things, you can mask things off. That's under options down here. So I want you to look at this question. So we have, let me see if I can find something to write with. Here we go. So we have f of x, we have x f of x, which is one kind of y, and we have x g of x. which is another kind of y. They've given us 0, 5, 1, 7, 2, 9, 3, 11. Here they've given us 1, 1, or 0, 1, 1, 3, 2, 5, 3, 7. Rate of change is this. This is rate of change. Okay, this goes up by 2 each one. Plus 2, plus 2, plus 2. Rate of change here. Plus 2, plus 2, plus 2. So they have the same rate of change. If we go back to our answers, both functions have the same rate of change. They do not have the same starting value. 0, 5 and 0, 1 are not the same. So they do not have the same starting value. And g of x is actually smaller than f of x because it's 0, 1 and this is 0, 5. So, but they do have the same rate of change, so our answer is B. We would click our answer and then you click next. Practice hint, and I didn't cross out. It said to use the cross out. I didn't need to do that, but if we go back, I could have done that. I could have said, okay, my cross out button, do they have the same starting value? No, because those two starting values were different. G of x, we looked at down here. G of x, the starting value is not bigger, and their rate of change is identical. That leaves me out that they both have the same rate of change. So I could have crossed them out too if I had wanted to. And I go back to my pointer button or I will be crossing out things all over the place. Practice hint. Enter your answer using the keypad below. You can use the fraction button to enter your answer as a fraction. Again, so I'm going to be putting an answer in, so my question makes me do something. There are 3 blue marbles and 4 red marbles in the bottle. What is the probability of selecting a blue marble from the bottle when one marble is selected at random? This is a great one for the highlighter. Highlight this question. When you highlight, you have to hold your mouse key down. Go back to the pointer. That's what your question is. What information are you given? You're given that there are 3 blue marbles and 4 red marbles. So total marbles, I have 7 marbles. My question tells me I'm going to be using probability. That means my bottom number is the total number of marbles that I have. I have 7 marbles. My question asks me again, what is the probability of selecting a blue marble? The number of blue marbles that I have available to me are 3. So I have 3/7, and that cannot be reduced. So my fraction answer would be 3/7. I'm going to click this fraction key. Then I'm going to put a 3 on top, and then I'm going to click below, and I'm going to put a 7 below. And that is my answer. And then I would go next. Question 3. Practice hint. Use the mathematics reference sheet to find the formula for volume of a sphere. That's this reference sheet. Use the scientific calculator to compute the volume. We're going to use that today just because I don't have a calculator handy with me. Practice hint. Use the keypad below to enter your answers as a decimal number. So they're telling you right there it's going to be a decimal number. The radius of a sphere is 5 inches. What is the volume of the sphere rounded to the nearest tenth of a cubic inch? So the first thing I'm going to do is highlight that question because I want to be able to go back to make sure that what I did was correct. Use highlighter. And you highlight it and you go, okay, back to this. And they tell us to use 3.14 as pi. So I'm going to go up here to my math reference sheet and I need the sphere, volume of a sphere. A sphere is like a ball. And it tells me that the volume of my sphere is 4/3 pi times the radius cubed. That's a 3. Okay, and remember that radius is half of a diameter. I don't think they made us do that, but now once we've written that formula down, we can close that. And we know that the radius of a sphere is 5 inches. So we're going to put 4/3 times pi, which they told us is 3.14. So I'm going to rewrite that again. 4/3 times 3.14 times radius, which is 5, raised to the 3rd power. Now I'm going to, after I've written that down, I'm going to go up to my calculator and I'm going to type that in. So I'm going to type in 4/3. So I'm going to type in 4 divided by 3. That's 4/3. See how it makes a fraction? Times pi, which is 3.14, times 5 raised to the power, there's a little caret, of 3. So that's what it looks like on this kind of a calculator. 4/3 times, that's what the asterisk is, 3.14 times 5 raised to the power of 3. You hit enter, and it tells you that your answer is 523.333333, which is 523 1/3. So you might write that down on your paper. 523.3 repeated, just so you can close this, and you're going to type that in. And it says, what is the volume of the sphere rounded to the nearest tenth of a cubic inch? That's going to be 1 decimal place. That's what a tenth is, 1 decimal place. So you're going to write 523.3. And then you're going to go to next. Okay. Practice hint. Respond to the question by dragging a point or points from the left side of the box into the correct location on the coordinate grid. Look at the system of equations below. And they give you 2 systems. Remember, y equals mx plus b, this format means you have a line. One of these lines is one of these formulas, and the other line is the other one. The number that comes in front of x is your m, which is your slope. This is a slope of -2. That's going to be steeper than a half. 2 is steeper than a half. That means the steep one is going to be the 2 one, and this fractional one is going to be the more flat one. And because they're both a negative, notice that if you're riding your bike from left to right and you hit it, you're going to go downhill. That's a negative slope. It also, if you think of the letter N, look at the letter N, capital N, notice the direction the diagonal goes. It goes down. Notice the direction the diagonal goes. Negative has that net goes in the same direction as the diagonal on the letter N. And they want to know, the question asks, or is telling you to do, the system of equations is graphed on the coordinate grid. Show the solution set of the system of equations by dragging the point or points onto the coordinate grid. So if you were to highlight this question, they want you to show the solution set of the system of equations by dragging points onto the coordinate grid. That's what you're being asked to do. Back to that. So a system has, wherever they cross, that is their solution. So you can drag a dot. Now you could drag dots. If you drag dots to all these other points, they would be wrong. That is it. One drag, but you have the option to drag it more than once. But we don't want to do that. So that's question 4. Next question. Okay, this one's here's your instructions. Match each description on the left to the correct term on the right. Practice hint. Select a description box on the left side and a blue box appears. Then select its match on the right side and a blue line connects them. Some descriptions may have more than one match. To undo the last match, either click on the blue line or use the undo button to undo all the matches. So when you do the undo button, it gets rid of them all and you have to start over. Practice hint, press the magnifier button and select 1.5 or 2.0 to turn on the magnifier tool. This is good. We don't really need it today for this one, but this would blow it up if you needed to look at it. It's quick, easier. Use the gray bar to scroll back and forth and turning on the magnifier. So I showed you the magnifier. I'm not going to use it. So we're going to start with things that we know. Let's look at these pictures. Lines on the same plane that do not intersect. Okay, I think you might know that that is a parallel line. So we would click. They do not intersect. Parallel lines are like train tracks. Then we can look on down and we can go, well, this one, see how this has an endpoint and this has an endpoint? They don't connect. There's a blank gap in here. So we're like, that's not a line segment because the line segment has two solid ends. Perpendicular means they meet like a T. A circle goes all around a circle, a dot. An angle, this kind of makes you think it could be an angle, but it doesn't connect. It doesn't attach. So it's not any of those. So we're going to click none of these because they do not touch. A measurable part of a line that consists of every point between two endpoints. Well, that would be line segment. Now, if you notice, this one has arrows, and these arrows will keep this line going, and it will cross this line, and they form like a T. They form at right angles. That means this is your perpendicular lines. Now, this one, a lot of people have trouble with this question. All points on a plane that are equidistant from a given point. So I want you to think about that. Here's your given point. Okay, so if we go here, here, same point, same distance. It's just like we have a little measuring tool. We work our way around, same distance, same distance, same distance, same distance. What did we form? And we keep doing that over and over and over. We formed a circle. And so that is the answers to that question. And we didn't use that one. Not everyone gets used. Okay, now this one, I really like this question because it makes you have to think about canceling. An object moved 10 yards in 1 second at a constant speed. Convert the speed of an object into miles per hour. So think about that. We need miles on top per hour on bottom. That's what we need. Miles per hour. All right. So whatever it is, miles has to be on top and hours has to be on bottom. And we know from our description is we have 10 yards in 1 second. This might be something you would highlight, even though it's not the question. It is some piece of information that is really important. So we have yards here. We need 10 yards per second. Per means, so I click on that and there I go. And that actually let me click on it as without my pointer. So 10 yards per second. Okay, so that's the first one. Now everything else, which one of these is equal to 3 feet? An hour, a yard, a mile, 60 seconds, 60 minutes, 5,280 feet. You're right. 1 yard is the same as 3 feet. This yard cancels out this yard. So now, what is the same as a minute? Which one of these is the same as a minute? 60 seconds is the same as a minute. So now we must relate these other two together as well. But remember, we're looking for miles per hour. So miles is going to have to go on top. Which one of these means the same as a mile? 1 hour, 60 minutes, 5,280 feet. That's the same. And then we're going to have to say miles per hour. That means hour needs to go on bottom, and 60 minutes is the same as an hour. That's how you do that one. This is the question that I said that I'm not sure that I have the correct answer, and I'm going to explain why. So it says, click on the arrows in the drop-down menu to select values to complete the equation part of A and answer the question in part B. Okay, so you have part A and B on the same page, which is not usually the case. Each week, Blaine restocks the soda in each of his vending machines. The scatter plot below shows the number of grape sodas and the number of orange sodas remaining in each of the vending machines. So when you have a graph, the first thing you want to do is read the graph. Okay, there's his soda machines. This side is his cans of grape soda. So it's his cans of grape soda. And this side is his cans of orange soda remaining. Okay, so when he has 1 can of orange soda remaining, he has 3 cans of grape soda remaining. When he has 1 can of orange soda remaining, he has 4 cans of grape soda remaining. So just different times that he showed up. And these are different visits that he restocked the machine, and sometimes they had shared data. But you can see on this data plot that they all go up the same. It pretty much goes up 1, rises up 1, goes over 1, rises up 1, goes over 1, rises up 1, goes over 1. So it pretty much has a slope of 1. Rise over run. It's 1 over 1. Remember, that's the number that goes in front of x. So I'm pretty sure that it is 1x. Now, you have a couple of outliers. You have this guy who sticks out off here, and you have this guy who sticks out over here. But otherwise, it goes pretty singular. And it says, select the values to complete the equation for the best line of best fit. We aren't given the line of best fit. We have to figure out the line of best fit, and that's kind of hard to do. It's going to run kind of up in between these numbers. So it's not going to directly work in. So you have to figure out where will it cross this axis, the y-axis. Because remember, where it crosses the y-axis is what is the plus value. So it's probably going to cross anywhere between, it could cross at 2.5, but nothing here crosses at halves, because you can't have a half of a can of soda. So it's either going to cross at 2 or it's going to cross at 3. So it's going to be 2 or 3. So we go over here and we have the choices of 2 or 3. So let's put in 2 as we click on 2. Let's just check that one. It could be 2. Based on the equation for the line of best fit, how many cans of grape soda will remain when there are 8 cans of soda, orange soda remaining? So if you go over here to 8, you go up here to 8, notice that 8 doesn't have anything. But if we put in 8, 10 is where it was on a lot of 8. When it was at 8, it was at 10. And when it was at 7, it was at 10. And when it was 6, it was 10. So it's possible that when it could be 10, it could also be 9. But if we put in an 8 for x, 8 plus 2 is 10. 10 could work. And we could say 10. 10 is an option. If I put in 3, that would make 11. 11 is not an option. So I do believe that this is the correct answer, but because we don't have a line of best fit, it's kind of a guess, but that's why. This is where does it cross, this is what's its slope, and then when you put in 8, you should get an answer. Select the 3 equations that represent a function. Okay, so what is a function? So let's talk about that. A function, let me change pages here. A function I want to talk about what is a function, what's not a function. A function is anything that moves left or right. So it can be, this can be a function, this can be a function, things like that can be functions. This can be a function, not all on the same page. What cannot be a function is anything that goes vertically. A straight line down cannot be a function. Something that curves this way and then goes straight up cannot be a function because it's got a straight line down. That's called this is called a vertical line. And the vertical line test is if you can draw a vertical line through any point and it never goes through 2 points at the same time, it is a function. So let's talk about what these answers mean. okay? X squared, x equals 1. Okay, so if we were to graph x equals 1, that seems like, well, x is equal to 1. But if you're graphing the whole function, whenever x is equal to 1, that means it's the straight up and down line at 1. That's what x equals 1. We already know that x equals 1, or a straight line down, cannot be a function. So we can use our cross-off tool. This is a good one to use our cross-off tool. And go, yep, it can't be that one because that's a straight up and down line. X equals -2. Same problem. It can't be that one. That means it goes straight up and down at -2. We have to pick 3. We take off, and so we look at these others. Well, here's an x equals, but this has a y. If I put in an xy chart, and I put in a 1 for x, or actually you would put in something for y. I'm going to put in, disregard that, I'm going to put in a 1 for y, and it's 3x equals 3y. You want to put in the point that's something you need. So if I put in a 1 for y, I'm going to get a 3 for x, because 1 times 3 is 3. If I put in a 2 for y, I'm going to get a 6 for x. Those are points on a plane. Those could be a function. So that actually is a function. So I'd click that as my 1. Y equals mx plus b, y equals mx, that is a function. I could switch this to y equals something. I can take, if you have 1x and 1y, it is a function. So I could say, well, I'm going to move this y over here. And I'm going to move this x over to the other side. That cancels this out. And it cancels this out. And so we ended up with y equals x minus 2, which is the same as y equals mx plus b. It is still a function. Those are my 3 functions that absolutely are. X squared plus y squared are not functions. That's going to be a sideways bowl. So that would not work because you can't get through it. So that one we could cross out, but we don't really need to because we found there are 3 that we needed. And then our very last question. Select exactly 1 answer bubble from part A and exactly 1 answer bubble from part B. Shows line values of linear equations. So this is one where using your highlighter tool is very helpful. Highlight this question. What is the y-intercept of the linear function? All right, so y-intercept means when x is equal to 0, that's what the y-intercept is. Because when x is at 0, you're going up and down the y-axis. And so in this case, when x is equal to 0, the f of x is 5. Now we're going to go to the next page. And it didn't keep it because it didn't need it. What is the average rate of change of the linear function from 0,5 to 425? So they want to know the rate of change. Average rate means if it doesn't go up exactly the same each time, you would average those out. But let's look. 5 to 10, it goes up 5 plus 5. 10 to 15 plus 5. 15 to 20 plus 5. 20 to 25 plus 5. So its average rate is it goes up 5 every time. And that's that answer. Now you get to the end, and if we had anything that we had flagged, so I'm going to go back to a question. Let's say I'm really going, I'm not really sure about that one. I'm going to put an answer down. I'm going to flag it. I'm going to hit next. And then I get to the end. And I go, oh, there's a flag. I forgot. I said I was going to go back to that one. Click on that number. It takes you back to that question. Remove the flag. Check it to make sure it's what you want and go on. And you can go, when you're done, you can just go in, review, test again, check it all, make sure it's exactly what you want. You've checked through everything. A good way to review is to start back at the beginning really quickly. And if you've highlighted the question, which I did, and I don't know, I thought I did. Maybe I didn't. I'm going to highlight again because I thought I did. highlight the question, and you go back to the pointer. So let's go back to end review test. Go, I'm going to check again. I'm going to start back at the beginning. There's my review. Which comparison of the function? Is both functions have the same rate of change? Oh yeah, rate of change I remember is over here. 1, 3, 5, 7. Yep, they all come. That is true. That is it. What is the probability of a blue marble from the bottle when a 1 marble is selected? So I have 3 blue marbles, 7 total marbles, 3 sevenths. Yep, that's it. I check back. What is the volume of the sphere? Volume. Volume is, I remember, was volume was pi times 4/3 pi r cubed. If I need to, I can quickly do that again, and I can look back at my notes and check to see that I did it right and check to see that my answer is the same. I'm not going to do that because you understand we could do that. I look to see, I need to know the solution set by dragging the points. Yep, there's only one solution because there's only 2 crossing lines. That looks right. I check to make sure, do I believe that all the lines that intersect are parallel? Yep. That this doesn't work with any of them? Yep. The line segment is the part between 2 points? Yep. Perpendicular makes that T? Yep. Circle is, yep, okay, I agree with those. Now this one I didn't, it just says match, but I didn't need to do the highlight. Checking on this one, 10 yards in 1 second, do 3 feet equal a yard? Yep. 60 seconds in a minute, 1 mile in 5,280 feet, 60 minutes in an hour. When I cross out everything, seconds cross out seconds. And this is where this highlighter tool can come in handy. Seconds. I don't think it's going to let me do it. Darn. Never mind. I thought that would work. It did not. So, but seconds, cross out seconds, yards, cross out yards, feet, cross out feets, minutes, cross out minutes. And that leaves miles and hours with miles per hour. You would multiply all of these numbers across. You would multiply all of these numbers across, and then you would do the division, and you would get the miles per second. But they're just asking you to set the problem up. This was our line of best fit, and basically if this fits into this equation and there is an answer there, then you're right. And 8 times plus 2 does equal 10. And then are these 3 all functions? I know these 2 are not. I know these 3 are. This one is that weird thing. I think I feel right about it. And then 9 are the Y-intercept, remember, is when x is equal to 0. That's the Y-intercept. That's 5. That was right. And this one, what is the average rate of change? And I go up 5 each time. So 5, it's not 20. It's not all 4. It's the average rate of change. The average rate. This is important. Average rate of change. Average means you add them up and divide. So that would be what they change each time. And that is the online tools. You would then hit end test when you think you've answered everything, and you would tell it to submit.